So, yeah, on the top left corner is my name.
Benjamin Abelow?
Yeah, yeah. So, background information. I've been a full-time resident of South County since 2002 and of Great Barrington since 2015. Just over a month ago, in early December 2017, I called the GB Police Department to inquire about parking rules this winter. I was told that overnight parking is permitted everywhere, the only exception being right after a snowstorm, thus enabling the Department of Public Works to plow. That is clearly a reasonable exception. Great Barrington experienced a major snowfall on January 4th through 5th. On January 10th, 5 days after the storm, my car was towed from Church Street by Steve's Auto Repair. I was charged $148.40 to recover my car. Of this, $108 was a towing fee, even though the distance from Church Street to Steve's is only about 0.5 miles. In addition, Steve charged me a $35 storage fee, quote unquote, for holding my car, although according to Steve's, the storage fee was charged because the car was held for 2 hours or more. The fact that my car was towed at 5:20 a.m. and it took me additional time even to locate my car was not considered relevant. Comments and questions. These are pointed yet are intended to be constructive. Why did it take 5 days for the DPW to clear up the sides of Church Street? This is an inordinately long period of time. Citizens have a right to expect that if plowing has not been done within a couple of days, they may again park on that street. If some extraordinary circumstance prevents the plowing from being done quickly, signs should be posted on the affected blocks warning citizens that parking is forbidden for a specific period of time, say 24 hours, and that during this time, parked cars will be towed. Who is responsible for supervising DPW? Yes, DPW has a responsibility to clear the streets, but they also have a responsibility to manage the street clearing in a way that does not cause unnecessary or inordinate inconvenience and expense for citizens. Who in town government agreed to the absurd towing and storage fees? This kind of towing job must be considered a plum by towing companies. My guess is that a simple competitive bidding process would have reduced the towing costs by at least 50% and perhaps even 75%, given the volume of cars and the short towing distance involved. Did anyone even consider the many, many thousands of dollars that citizens would have to pay for these inordinately high towing and storage fees? Would the town have found these absurd fees acceptable if the town itself had to foot the bill? Of course not. Then why would the town find these fees acceptable when the money comes out of the pockets of hardworking citizens? I request, 1, a thorough review and change in policies of all aspects of this situation to remedy the situations indicated above. I am asking nothing more than adequate attention be paid to both, I'm asking nothing more than that adequate attention be paid to both the clearing the streets and treating citizens fairly. 3, given A, the information I received from the police department, B, what appears to be many administrative and managerial failures as described above, C, the absurdly high towing and quote-unquote storage fees charged by Steve's, D, the fact that the town did not seem to have bothered negotiating reasonable fee levels, and E, the flagrant disregard of the financial burden that these failures entail for many hardworking citizens, me included. Given all this, I request that the town refund to me the $148.40 that I had to pay to Steve's to recover my car. Thank you.
Yeah, this issue will be on, I hope, our next agenda because, as you clearly state, there are some challenges in our policy. And to give you a little brief history, what happened was there's a gentleman who also lives downtown who requested that we change our winter parking ban policy because it's maybe burdensome for people who live in the downtown to not be able to park closer to their place of dwelling for 6 months out of the year, especially when 90% of the time there's no snow event happening, or maybe even more than 90% of the time. And so we tried to shift to a system whereby we basically say you can park wherever you want as long as there's not a snow emergency, and unfortunately, we didn't iron out some of the potential problems that might come in the future with clearing the snow. And I for one, I agree with you 100%. And I think that I don't think your car should have been towed. I think that the communication isn't clear, the signage isn't clear, and we need to make some major changes, whether it's going back to the way we originally had it, which would make it clear for everybody. You do not park on Main Street or the side streets overnight as one alternative, which would not be ideal for many people who live in town, and I frankly would prefer to encourage people to live in town. I think population density in a tighter area is more efficient and appropriate, and can be less expensive and so on. I used to live on Railroad Street many years ago, and had to deal with the winter parking ban, and didn't take it to the degree that it was taken to. But I think it, or the alternative to going back to the ban completely would be to, in my opinion, make something that's very, what's the word again? I keep forgetting it. It's not arbitrary, but objective. An objective policy that says, nobody gets to choose whether it's an emergency or whether this is the time to clear snow and tow cars. It just says you park on this side of the street on this day and on this side of the street on that day, and you have signage that says so. And then if you violate that, which would be clearly written, then we tow your car. But if you're not, and all of a sudden you come outside not you're expecting your car to be there and it's gone, that's not fair. So I don't know what the mechanism is. I don't know if the will of the board is here to reimburse you for the towing, but I don't think it's fair for you to have to pay for the towing that.
So, but this will be on the next agenda, and I don't think this is the time to discuss it.
This issue for Mr. Abelow could be on the next agenda, but we could also deal with it now, because what's on the next agenda is a bigger sort of general policy issue. Fixing this so it doesn't happen again.
The issue is when we define the days you can't park, we define them as in the event of a winter snow event. This was the result of a winter snow event, but it wasn't the winter snow event, which is the confusion.
Right. And there have been other issues with potential icing and pre-sanding, pre-salting. We put it out on Facebook. We wrote on Facebook that we request that you don't park overnight, which is not an inappropriate way of asking people not to park. If it's a request.
I agree with Steve. I think we need to fix this policy at the meeting when it's on the agenda, but in the meantime, I don't see a problem. It gives me back to 148, so Mr. Abelow doesn't have to come back here unless you want to participate in us fixing it.
It's not exactly, unfortunately, or fortunately, in this case, maybe it's not giving it back.
No, it comes out of the town.
Because
we didn't get it.
We didn't get the money, Steve's did.
Right.
I understand the other issue. There are two towing companies. I don't know that it was bid out. I think that they alternate, mostly because they're both within very close. But as to the fee, I have no idea. I mean, if I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go tow somebody's car, I might charge you $150 too. I don't know. I'm not in that business.
I certainly don't want to have a situation where, once again, as it has been in the past, that absolutely all these streets are prescribed parking.
I don't either.
But it makes no sense. I mean, there's really not even options. If
There's
were,
a lot at the top of Railroad Street.
I was already told by the police department that I can't park overnight there.
Yes.
I don't know
Well,
why they were
then
told
there needs to be some coordination, because I spoke to the police department less than a week ago about that.
In the lot at the top of
In the
Railroad
lot at the
Street?
top of the hill. I
You
described
most
specifically
certainly
above
can.
the triplex.
Yeah, you most certainly can. So that's something we need to deal with.
Right.
That's an
Lot of
administrative
options
problem,
for-
which you pointed out. Yeah. So I would like to see us come back. One, Sean would be here, and hopefully the chief. And we would, before we even have the discussion, that we would talk about where you can park, period, such as on top of Railroad Street, so people understand where you can, and then have the discussion of what we're gonna do from there on. And I would like to see you come back, only not because want to drag you back here, but I'd like to hear your opinion as we
I'd
go
be glad
along.
to give you my opinions on whatever you're talking about.
Yeah.
If that's good. Yeah.
So, what do you say?
Just, no, I'm sorry.
Well, I just want to, I'd rather not, wait to, but of course, if we keep him on the hook for $150, he'll come back. But I don't think that that's fair, so, but it's, you know, I don't, this isn't something we would typically do, and so it's a challenge for us, whereas, you know, we didn't put this in the budget at the last meeting.
Well, before I agree to anything, I think it's our due diligence to know. I don't think there were that many cars towed that night, but if, let's say there were 200 cars and we agreed to give him $150, we better find a budget for it.
Yeah.
If there were 3 cars towed, you know, I think it's just our due diligence. I'm not against it. I think we've made enough mistakes. Let's not just rush off and do
It
another
doesn't
one.
sound like a lot of people are coming in here and knocking on the doors for reimbursement, though.
They will once we raise
Sure,
it.
any kind of
Here's your money back.
Confidentiality, yeah.
No, well,
There's a TV camera right there.
Oh.
and there's 4 members of the press, so.
Let me just add one more thing, as long as it.
Sure.
The whole question of alternate sides, et cetera. I mean, for me, one of the big issues was, yeah, I mean, my understanding was that there was already a change in what the police, that there was some uncertainty and some shifting of the policy, even with respect to early in the season. But that even with respect to the newly stated policy, the idea that one could reasonably have to wait 5 days in order for that towing and plowing to occur is crazy. So if there were like, you know, if somebody laid down the law with DPW and said, you've got 2 days to plow the streets after a storm,
So let me just give you.
and if you can't do it, you gotta put signs up or whatever.
Let me give you a little defense of that. At times, they're out for 24 hours. So for 2 days later, they're still catching up on their sleep. There's other things they have to do. So it might be 5 days, but we have to have better communication. I agree, we're agreeing. I'm just trying to explain to you that the DPW is not a force of 25 people. It's a small group of drivers. So there is a reason why it could be 4 or 5 days later. But in the same aspect, we have to have better communication.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
agree
it's
with you.
gotta have some respect for the people who park their cars here and who really don't have a lot of options.
Well, that's one of the things we need to give you, is
Yeah.
tell you where the options are.
Right, and are they trustworthy? That is, if the police department actually thinks it's not trustworthy, then who actually makes the towing decision?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Or ticketing decision? I mean, you may say one thing, but if the police department believes that it's illegal to park up there overnight,
Well, we'll get on the
how
same
do I
page.
know that that's not gonna happen?
That's the first thing that Steve said, and that's the first thing that needs to be dealt with is, where can people park who live downtown without the, you know, if there is a snow event?
I mean, when I spoke to the police department a week ago, and they told me you can't park up at that lot, I said, where am I supposed to park? And they said, well, don't you know some people who have houses?
Really?
I mean, really, it was just absurd.
Okay, so we're obviously having some communication issues, if that's, I mean, maybe it was a younger officer who has, I have no idea.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that to criticize them, I'm basically saying
I understand
that from their perspective,
Yeah.
even from their perspective, there was no
It's
option.
not their fault if they don't know.
Yeah.
That's a communication issue. Making sure that everybody understands how the parking works, and that's gonna be the first thing that we have to figure out.
I do think the police, in all those circumstances, there could have been better communication, but the communication that did result and the answers were all in the, with the intent of helping the residents find parking
I
and
don't-
avoiding being towed. I think they've gone
I-
above and beyond. Department of Public Works is excellent in snow removal. They did an excellent job over the holidays. If they could get out there earlier, I'm sure they would have, but due to weather and also overtime scheduling, they did the best they could in terms of that.
I think that that's true. I think that nobody is questioning the DPW's quality of work. I think that's absolutely true. They do a wonderful job clearing the roads and cleaning up afterwards. We just changed the policy and we didn't have enough information and we didn't do enough signage and we don't have a good means of communicating. And I think in my opinion, and we'll talk about this again in 2 weeks, whenever it is, it has to be objective. It cannot be, this person decides that it's a snow event. I mean, the school district has to deal with that because of the students and everything else, and that's a challenging thing to do, but we shouldn't have to I mean, the police department has absolutely gone above and beyond, out of their way to try and find people whose cars were on the street and knock on doors and notify them, and they obviously didn't get to you, unfortunately. But the fact that I found that out, I was like, wow, that really is going, instead of just ticketing or towing, they tried to find people. But they shouldn't have to do that. There's more important things than then running around trying to find everybody to move their car. That just seems crazy to me. They did it, and I appreciate that, but it's not the best way to govern. So we'll talk about it again, and it doesn't look like I'm getting the traction to authorize, to get the board to vote on it.
Doesn't mean we're against it, we just wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you decide to act on this, discuss all this, and you want my input,
No, we're going
Just
to.
give me a buzz.
It's gonna be on the next agenda,
Okay.
which
Okay.
is, whatever it was.
February
February
12th.
when is it?
February 12th.
12th. If I'm in town, I'll certainly come.
Okay.
I'll be in
Well,
town then.
can we make sure that this is on the next agenda, regardless of whether Mr. Abelow is here or not?
Will we have parking on the agenda?
Well, I want that to be on the agenda, please, not just the
That
parking.
being the
That being his
ticket?
request, yes. In case he can't be here, I don't want it to get kicked down the road. But what we do need, and before we get there, we need to know how many other people were towed, so we can follow up with Steve's, find out who else was towed, and make sure that it wasn't 200 people.
Right.
I don't necessarily think we need to run out and find them.
No, they'll find us, I'll guarantee you, if they want it, and that's okay. That's fine.
So can you follow up and find out how many people were towed on this particular, we're not running around chasing everybody down. Yes, Eileen.
It would be Steve's and,
Deckers, but I don't think Deckers was out on this particular evening.
but you're going to check.
Am I?
Well, we should, we should, if you want to know the total number of people, we're going to give.
I
You don't
thought they
wanna
all,
be surprised.
No, it would
I
be.
thought they alternated,
It would be in the
alternated,
direction of the police department.
Police
We don't
Yeah,
need to check the
so,
numbers.
the police will tell us.
right, the police have
I
all of
believe
it.
it was 3.
That was my memory as well.
Yeah,
but-
that's fine, but let's just make sure.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Thank
you're
you.
welcome, thank you.